So today's presentation is about jQuery. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present again. I believe this is the third time. And just count the up. Google has so-called Dart. Okay, Microsoft has, check it out tonight, TypeScript. We cannot use JavaScript, right? We have to use something else. And we have our friend called jQuery. So that's why we have this presentation. So the scope of this presentation is we're not going to cover everything in jQuery because it's huge. Okay, it's just going to highlight the most important ones so that people can use and maybe can avoid low-level JavaScript programming. What is there in jQuery that is most useful? I will try to present as much as possible. Target audience is obviously the web developers. Some sort of JavaScript is required. If you do not know what is JavaScript, bad for you. A minimum CSS is helpful. Okay, even though if you do not know CSS, that is okay. Because jQuery, when you do a $ bracket, that is a CSS selector actually. Target browsers. This I just discovered recently that even though jQuery says that it will work for all the browsers, but over the years I found out that if you are using jQuery for some browser like IE8, you have some issues. So IE9 and above, you are most of the time you're okay. But anything below IE9, you have to be careful. Obviously IE6 is even worse. But since at least in CADSR we still support IE8, so you may want to watch out on that. Because IE8 and IE9 is like, at least performance-wise, is like 50% better. And a lot of things has changed. Actually, I heard that IE9, they start from scratch. And some other browser also. And all these browsers in the bracket is a JavaScript engine. If you heard about WebKit, that is layout engine. So it's rendering engine and JavaScript engine are a bit different. The fastest one and the most popular one obviously is V8 from Google. Why? Why do we use jQuery? It's because we want to have we don't want to tackle too much on the cross-browser issue. That's what it was originally designed for. Even though it is noticed that some even the cross-browser thing are not handled properly. Like if you are doing the window dot location, to redirect, it still has some differences. And jQuery doesn't have anything to provide this kind of isolation. And also the manipulating the DOM, it is a very powerful library to manipulate the DOM. And the rest is like Ajax functionality. You have a very high level things, and then instead of using if else statement or something, it has a so-called promise. If you know what is that, it allows you to change your calls by dot. We'll see some of them. Another less common features to handle the events, perform animation, all those things. Normally, if you are not Hollywood studio, you will not need all those animation, unless you want to impress your user with a super fanciful animation. But and maybe you will use events. Components. Normally, jQuery, when we talk about jQuery, we always talk about the main library, jQuery.js. Okay, that's what you need to include. The other thing is the jQuery plugin. jQuery plugin actually a set of we'll see what is a plugin later on. But normally is a component, is a separate files that have codes to extend the jQuery. Okay, using the same namespace, $ something, dot something. That something can be your plugin. Okay, and one of the famous plugin is jQuery-UI. Okay, and another one, if you are doing mobile website development, jQuery mobile is very popular nowadays. If you heard about Central Touch, and was that Phone Gap or something, they are more or less the same. approach is sometimes like PhoneGap is a hybrid. They combine the web view, the website, together with native client to contain the web view. But jQuery mobile is totally web. Okay, there's no native plugin, so you need to have a mobile browser to render that. And jQuery mobile is very very powerful on this because you do not need to know much about the API. You just need to know HTML tags. More example, you can just visit the plugin.jQuery.com. Tons of it.
Is it provided by jQuery by themselves, or is it by regular users, the plugins?
The plugin, you can be a third-party developer too. It does not need to be.
Yeah. Someone wrote the jQuery plugins also called jQuery, extend the jQuery, but you got to be careful with it.
Yeah, the naming conflict, all those things, I will talk about that later a bit also. So simple web page with jQuery, right, is, can you guys see this? No? Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is the simplest I can think of. Okay, so in this case, I'm importing jQuery 144. Okay, so one line of code, you need to say type whatever JavaScript. Even though HTML5, I believe this is optional. You can just say script src equal to something, because by default HTML5 browser know that what else can you speak the language like English, but in a web browser nowadays there's nothing else, no VB script, whatever script anymore, so JavaScript. So, and then there's another callback that every time when you include this jQuery, it will always call back one function called document.ready. And this document.ready is a function that every time when the DOM is ready, the jQuery library will call this function. And then inside that, you can do your initialization, and you can safely assume that the DOM is ready. Even though you put in the header, you don't need to put in the end. When the DOM is ready, it will be called. If it's not ready, it will not be called. Okay? And obviously, you need to have some sort of ID or class or whatever, and you always access with the dollar followed by the bracket, and that syntax is a CSS selector. Okay, so this is the minimum jQuery. Any questions? Okay, good. Okay, another important thing is the namespace conflict. I don't think JavaScript has a such thing called namespace like Java. Using the package. But anyway, when the jQuery is bootstrapped, it's always bind to the $sign. What if your application or you are another framework or not framework? Yeah, framework or library that use the same $sign, like maybe Dojo, or whatever. Yes. So what happens? You have that. So you have clash, right? So one way is to revert back the dollar or the besides dollar, you can also there are two approaches. One is you can revert dollar and the jQuery, or if you don't want to revert everything, you can also refer, instead of dollar, you can refer the jQuery. This word, and then bracket. Okay? And but if you want to revert everything, you can call jQuery.noConflict to true. And then the return is the whatever you want to call. Okay, in this call, you can even call dollar you want. Okay? Yeah. Document ready, you have seen a lot, document.ready, right? But actually, you can shorten it by just saying dollar function. Okay, so this is the format that maybe not that popular, but you can do that. Okay, but people want to just stick with this because sometimes it's not easy to find. What is this a jQuery function or some other function? So that's why I believe this document.ready are still popular. If let's say without the jQuery, if you want to use the low-level JavaScript, you can just use window.add-event listener, DOM content loaded, and then pass in your function. And that function will be called if the DOM are fully loaded. This is a bit tricky. So we are talking about JavaScript. We're not talking about Java, okay? This does not mean the object instance. This in JavaScript, I'm a bit slightly off topic. There are 3-4 things that can be this. It can be the variable, can be the function, sometimes can be something else, there are 3 or 4 things. I apologize, I forgot what is it, but it's definitely more than object instance. $this is actually this in jQuery terminology is this is always referring to the current element inside the DOM. Okay, and then if you put the $, that means you are wrapping this current DOM element and provide it with jQuery features or jQuery functionalities. So when you do $this, it suddenly it's magic. It has a lot of capabilities, like whatever that jQuery expose, you can do with this DOM element. Okay, like for instance, $this .height .show, whatever that you can do with the jQuery. And it is it becomes a jQuery object. It's no longer a native JavaScript object. Get tag by its name. Okay, there are a couple of this here. This doesn't mean that everything exhausts this list or anything, but I think this is the most important one. So in this case, it is referring to jQuery is saying that I want to refer to all the hyperlink tag name A, which is hyperlink, right? And its property is a tag name. So this A reference have to have a property called tag name. Okay, and then this input, the property is should contain repeater. Okay, the third one is I want this ID. Okay, now I'm not referring by the tag name anymore. Maybe this title is a bit misleading. But in the third one is saying that I like to get all those element that has a ID, whatever ID, and then which has a attribute data extra. Okay, and then what do I do with it? I want to set it to something. Okay, that's what it means. And in this case, the data options in this the fourth one is a bit of HTML5 attribute. HTML, if you notice, any elements will have data hyphen something. Okay, you can even say data hyphen Mahi or data hyphen David, and then when you do data David, you will look for those elements with data hyphen David. Okay, so this is the thing. This data options, in this case, is option is the same as data hyphen options. Its data is HTML5 specific. Okay, and, I take that back. It does not mean that it has to be HTML5. It's HTML5 convention. Okay, the browser itself. We'll talk more about HTML5 features in the future presentation, but this is what it means. The last one is look for all the ordered list, right? Ordered list. Get the first one and apply the CSS background color to red. So you get the idea. You can look it up yourself. Maybe.
Iterate right here, right? You can iterate right here.
No, iterate next. You can.
You can do it
next. There's a for each other thing. We'll cover it the next slide. Okay. So this is not iteration yet. This is just individual referring to it, and even though it meant it matched to multiple one, is when you set something, it will set to the first one. Okay, it does not iterate the collection.
right. But now it's the first one.
Yeah. Okay, another feature of jQuery is we have such thing called chaining. Okay, like you can do a CSS selector, find this class and then this thing, then you can also say that out of this, because it match multiple match, like sometimes you can say that you want, let's say it match 1, 2, 3 elements. Okay, you can say that you want the last one, and then the last one also internally you can zoom down, you can localize your search. You want to say that it has find only those elements that have a bar class. Dot is a class. Okay, pound is an ID. Okay, got like document dot get element by ID, pound. Dot is a bar, just in case you forgot about that. And then change the background to green. Okay, so in this case. Okay, chaining. So basically, this portion, the first line, is setting the rate, and then you don't even need to write a if else or whatever. You can continue based on whatever you found here, because the first one, that when you say foo, right, it is the it find this guy, okay, and then it set to this guy, and then after that, well, there's something. Oh, okay, sorry. I take it back. Yeah, the chaining works like this. You always start from the $sign and then select. In this case, it is looking for UL dot first. That means it is selecting all this piece, the first block of the UL. Okay, and then it's find me foo. Okay, and then set the color to red. That's why they're red here. And then there's a dot here, right? Remember the dot, the chaining is always, you have to backtrack with the original objects here. Okay, for this is how they design it. The methods, every time they are done, they're supposed to return the whatever jQuery objects that they last worked on. That's why chaining works. If you write a plugin and you do not return back the original jQuery, you are not compliant. Okay, so that's why in this case you can do end, because it still remember that this whole block. Okay, when you say end 1, 2, 3, right? This is the end. Okay, and then find dot bar. It just happened that the class is bar, and that's why you highlight the whole thing as green. Is that clear? No, not too fast, right? Okay, cool. So that is a chaining. It's very powerful feature, and it answers some of the questions. Sometimes when people ask, because jQuery also have the for each, the loop. What's the difference between the jQuery for each with normal JavaScript for loop, right? Because one of the feature is you can use the chaining. You don't have to have a spaghetti code or pyramid of death or whatever. It saves you, it minimizes your codes and make it more organized. In order to get the parents, you have this feature called dot parents, and then you can use the CSS selector to select your parents. Okay. Sometimes because you are inside the like input or something, you have a parent called form, and hopefully you don't have another form because there's a bad design. You can just use parent, and you can even use another parent, because of chainings. And then you do a submit or whatever you need to do. Looping. So this is the looping. What I say is, what happened?
Switching.
Oh, switching. So for looping, right, is like what I mentioned just now. You can use JavaScript looping, right? Okay, but in jQuery, this is the syntax. Hopefully, it's cleaner for you, but it probably takes some getting used to, So this is the array. Array is the first one as a parameter, and then the callback. Okay, and the index followed by the value of each, and I think it's obvious. So this is actually the same as this in jQuery. Okay, and like in because it's jQuery approach, you can do the chaining whenever you want. Looping with chaining. See, you find these objects. You find each of them. You work on this, and whenever you find that element in the collection, you can do whatever you want. In this case, it's just to set the height to plus another 5 with the existing height, make it bigger. Or whatever things you can do with JavaScript. Chaining does not mean you can do with looping also. So that's one advantage. Get radio button by name. Radio button, checkbox, whatever. But I've included here just to demonstrate the idea. You can. It's kind of like regex. You can say that this. I want to get all the input that have the attribute name with repeated. And then you get the DOM element as a jQuery object. Okay? To get only the checkbox value and its value, whether check or not, you use the colon syntax. So in this case, you will get all the input with the attribute name repeated and also check. Okay. Sometimes when you click something, you can trigger some event. You want to iterate. You want to get the whichever that the user check, you can do like this also. Even though you can just go ahead and use an on click or whatever, but if you don't want to do that, you can do like this. Any question? Work for any other form or whatever. Checkbox, everything. I'm fine. Fine, I think is serve different purpose. Fine, you can find like the whole document. This is more like if you enter input, obviously it's form related, you know. But this is just a CSS syntax. If you know CSS, it's nothing new. Okay, I'm not CSS guru, so hopefully that answers your question. Okay. .getScript. I kind of forgot what is this for, but do not use this for cross-domain script.
Some other outside of your domain you want to use?
No, yeah, I remember about this Ajax, but I forgot about this. What is .getScript? Unfortunately, I forgot about this. But I think what I meant to say is, if you are loading your JavaScript in the front end, and then you want to grab the data from some other backend or something, which has a different domain, then you have to set this cross-domain to true. Okay? I believe what I meant to say is you cannot just use the getScript, because the .getScript is for getting the script only from the origin domain. That means they have to be the same. If you are different, then you have to use .ajax, and then you have to make sure that cross-domain is set to true, because otherwise it will not work. I believe internally when you set to cross-domain, you will use JSON-P something. Okay?
This is getting the data type equal to
.js.
getting the JS file.
Yeah. It's not getting from HTML or anything.
It's not. They are not posting it to server or server.
No.
They are
Just getting from Java.
data.
Yeah, that's why you have to be careful, especially if the domain are different. You should use the .ajax. You should not use the .getScript. .getScript is only if your JavaScript comes from the same place. Like normally you don't need to do this because you have the script tag to handle it. But I think if you are a developer who develops a superscript like require.js, then you might need all these features because it gives you more flexibility. Script tag is just fixed, but this type of thing is more dynamic. You can do whatever fancy. Yeah. I think that's what I meant. It has been a while. Okay, form submit. Form submit is nothing fanciful, but always also it has a callback. Okay, another thing is if you notice JavaScript, the difference between JavaScript and Java is the function is a first-class citizen. Okay, function you can just pass around as a variable. Very much different from Java. I don't think, at least not until Java 8 is available using the lambda or whatever. But Java 8 before that, we cannot do all these things. So form is again, you want to submit something, you will write your function, and then form you get these objects, assuming this is inside the form, and then you will look for action method, and when you do a .serialize, whatever inputs element, whatever inside the form will be serialized. Okay, I believe base 64 encode or something. I'm not too sure, but it will serialize, and this data will be submitted when you do a post, when you do a submit. Okay. And this is one way to do it, and this is not the only way to do the form submission. A couple more ways. Okay, so that is kind of like pro and cons also with JavaScript or jQuery. There are most of the time there are more than one way to do things. So when you see some code that is slightly different, do not think that it's wrong or something. It's very dynamic, very flexible library or code.
So where exactly is this submitting?
This is shortened. I just want to demonstrate to you that this dynamically, this is how you do it. But there are some HTML, there are form tag, all those things. So I shortened a lot, and I believe the form is named data whatever OTF target. This is the name of the form. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Enabling jQuery. So most of the time when you want to enable, let's say you have some objects and you want to make it a jQuery object, you basically just wrap with a $sign. Okay. And then in this case is like when you get these form objects by using these attributes, you get that form, right? It's not a jQuery object, but you want to make it a jQuery object, you put another star here. So don't be perplexed or saying that it's a typo error. Sometimes you have $$ for no reason. I hope there's no $. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, it's all based on your design, you know. It's like the pattern of the curly bracket or something. You have to be at the something like that, whatever. So it's okay with that. That basically just means that make it a jQuery object. Okay, jQuery plugin. What exactly is jQuery plugin? jQuery plugin to the list is whenever you want to write jQuery plugin, you always have to add a new function, your own function, and assign it to object called $.fn. Don't ask me why they call it fn, because I believe maybe function is first class citizen. But whenever you do that, okay, you will become a jQuery plugin. Okay. Step number 2 and number 3 is actually optional. Step number 2 is actually whenever you want to write your plugin, you have to have single point of entry. Okay, you cannot have more than one. It's just best practices. Okay, you have more than one, also no one is going to complain to you. Because there's no rules saying that you cannot do that. But normally it is recommended that you occupy only one slot. Means that when you assign your function to this fn, stick with that function, and if you have multiple functions that you want to do, you pass it as a parameter or something, and dictate if else, if block or something, and change accordingly. And finally, you have to, if you want to support chaining, the third step says that you have to pass back the original jQuery object. Okay, so if you do these steps, that means you have done a jQuery plugin. Okay, so that's why I read it about. If you read Google or something, maybe you read like 2 hours, maybe you still do not know what's going on. But this is what I have learned that you need to do to write the jQuery plugin. Okay, and how do you use it? After you created your plugin, you can just refer it, as a usual $ whatever dot your plugin name. Your plugin name, and put in your options, your parameter if you support one. That's how it is, And all the jQuery plugin are basically based on this type of design only. And then so nothing magical with jQuery plugin.
You can publish them.
Yeah, you can publish them too, and hopefully people will use it. So that's a good thing about open source. jQuery-UI is the most popular one. Thank to Prakash to remind me on that. I have used jQuery-UI for the autocomplete. Okay, and I choose the 2 demonstration here so that you guys do not fall asleep. So let's see whether it works or not. Okay. So this I point this autocomplete to this endpoint, this commerce website. Basically, it returns some JSON objects, and then I do some some simple parsing, and then I present it as a drop down here. Okay. So let's say I type this. You see, all these things appear. All these are originally returned back as a JSON objects. And then I just pass it. Okay? So whenever you do this, you will zoom down. Let's say AM, right? See, it will become smaller and smaller. Okay? So the list becomes smaller and smaller. So this is one plugin, autocomplete. Okay? And you can also do like this. I will show you the code also. That how simple it is. Okay, so this is another one that pass the JSON objects and put it embedded as part of the HTML. Okay, so this thing here, and then when you select it, okay, so when you change to something else, let's say maybe this guy, okay, and then I don't know, and hit enter in this box, not the above. Okay, so it's supposed to change this content. Okay, so let's see. Let's look at the code. And actually, there's no server side here. If let's say you have some service that people expose a JSON, everything is just a front end. Okay, it's a JavaScript code, unless you own the endpoint. So as you see, to use this jQuery-UI component, autocomplete, there is always a CSS that you have to import also on top of the jQuery. This is jQuery. In this case, I use 191. And then you import the jQuery-UI, getScript, and then styles, your whatever own styles, on top of the jQuery-UI CSS. Okay? And then what do you do? Now, all this function, this load function, is because the jQuery-UI autocomplete will expect a certain function to be written. That's why you are writing that function. Okay, if they want it, actually they can design it as to call back the document ready also. But I think they don't want a conflict or something. They write their own methods. That's why you're defining all this function, right? Load all this thing, you know. Oh no, sorry, I take that back. See, this is document ready, right? Okay, so whenever load this, you know, you will call this, and then you do a submit back to the server. Okay, when the server is back, right? Okay, then the server is back, and you populate the function. Okay, you populate all your entry. You pass your objects. You populate this, and then you push the array, and then sorry. Okay, here. Okay, so this is actually the plugin. Okay, autocomplete plugin. So in this case, when the form is loaded, first you initialize the JSON, you get the JSON as object, and you push it in the array, and then you pass it to your plugin. Okay? So I believe autocomplete doesn't have any other methods. It's only one method. Remember the second design philosophy that we mentioned that where is that? Yeah. Typically try to occupy only one slot. So most of the I dare not to say every plugin, because there's no compilation check or anything. There's no such thing. But a good plugin will have only a very minimal set of function for you to be worried about. So in this case, autocomplete, and you pass in this, and then you're set. It will populate everything for you. This method here is just for me to detect. This is not you can. This is just a function of the jQuery. So this function is not a function of the autocomplete, but it's a function of the jQuery, the native jQuery. Okay. So what I'm saying is I want to detect the enter key. Okay. Huh? What?
Native jQuery event, I guess.
Yeah. In this case, I want to detect the enter, and I want to reload again. Okay. And then I want to populate the autocomplete again. Okay. So for this one, also it's the same thing. What happened? Okay. So you see the CSS, jQuery, jQuery-UI.js. You know, this is your application-specific CSS. So more or less the same thing, except that what is the difference here? Except that I'm populating, I guess, the results here. These results here with the HTML.
It's a div tag.
Yeah. Pass the objects. Where is it? Yeah. Whatever. Well, you get the idea. Right?
I'm also showing the Ajax function right there.
Yeah. Ajax here, you can use get and post. In this case, I just use get. You know, you can use post also.
Directly use get.
Yeah. Okay. And another thing that is very useful is if let's say you want to give a user perception that non-blocking, or you want to use asynchronous, you just make sure that asynchronous is true. By default, it's already true. In this case, I want to make sure that the data actually return, and then I do something in the front end. That's why I set async to false. Okay, but by default it's always true, because you want to do a lot of gazillion things, and then you don't want to pause. You know, Ajax. Yeah. But sometimes you want to use pose because you can hide the parameter. You know, even though that is not a fail-safe approach, people can still intercept it. You know, you make it harder. The trick about security is you want to have to make it harder for people to. Okay, another thing is jQuery-UI have an effect also. This is a very useful two commands. You have this jQuery objects, and there's this command called replace with. You can replace, once you get the, let's say a div tag or something, you can replace with your own HTML, okay, by just calling replace with, okay. And I'm just oversimplify here. I think you got the idea. And also you can use the effect highlight when you highlight. You know, remember there's this trick. Yeah, you see, just flash to give people indicate a good UX design. Always give a feedback to user. Not because a lot of Ajax thing. They don't even know when is it refresh, right? So you give some sort of indicator. So this is a good way of doing it. Just give the effect highlight. I think the color also can be changed. Okay, using CSS obviously. Rough edges. Okay, I forgot all the rough edges, but I just remember that this is the one that I'm not really happy. Okay, in order to get a value from, let's say, input, okay, you use dot val. Okay, not dot value, dot val. But in order to set it, you think that you can just do like dot val set some text, right? But it didn't work like that. You have to use dot text. I don't know. Maybe it worked for you guys, but I try many browsers. The dot val. There are some explanation on why, but it's like 1 or 2 pages long, just to explain dot val set tag. What does it mean? But I didn't have much patience maybe, so I use dot text. It always works for me. Okay? And you guys also can share with the team what rough edges you have later on. That would be awesome. Okay. Okay.
For 30, so how many more slides?
Another 2 minutes. 4:30, right? Okay, good timing. Another feature that single page app. Have you guys heard about single page app? SPA? No? Single page application or SPA is promoted by or made popular by Microsoft. Mainly because of Windows presentation framework, where it is everything, instead of writing a Microsoft Foundation class or C++ code, they use XML to render the native Windows look and feel. Okay, so based on that, then they came out and web become very popular. .NET is like outshined, not that popular anymore. They come out with this WPF, and then also they come out with a concept called single page app, where you download all the HTML, download one JavaScript file or bunch of JavaScript file, and then you just stick there. It's something like GWT. Okay, so download there.
Simulated desktop.
Yeah, only one HTML. Maybe multiple, one or more JavaScript, and whenever the user click on that page, it never reload again. It just do its magic using the Ajax, using REST protocol, whatever, and it always render that. So that is SPA. Okay, but the challenges with SPA is, think about it. You only have one .html file, but you have multiple, especially if your application is big. You have a gazillion .js file, right? So then you have issue with how do you manage a .js file, because one JS file depends on maybe some other library or those things. So for the community, the open source community have come up with this library called Require.js. Okay, Require.js is one of them. There are much more library to manage the .js file, and then jQuery also support that model, and that model is called asynchronous module definition. That's what AMD stands for. Okay, so jQuery support AMD, that architecture, but it's only 1.7 and above. Okay, So, what else? That's all. Okay.
Yeah, nice timing, James.
Yeah,